when you're manifesting, I mean, for me, I have a few steps to do that. Number one, you've got to be in your happy place, which means you need to be in a high frequency. Because if you're only focusing on the problem or the issue or the challenge, and that's all you can see, at best, you might be able to think your way out of it. But you're not focusing on how amazing your life could be. The next thing is you need to set an intention. And your intention is like a line in the sand. It's like a no matter what, I am this. I am doing this. I have this. I'm creating this. So that you're very clear about what that is, whether that's the business, the health, the relationship, whatever. Then you want to get really clear about what that is for you. And this is the fun part.
At Minerva, we're transforming women's health by offering personalized bioidentical hormone treatments that truly respect your unique needs. We test, don't guess, because your well-being deserves nothing less. Experience the future of hormone health for women at Minerva. To find out more about how to restore hormone balance with a functional medicine approach, go to gethormonesnow.com. So today I'm talking to Natalie Ledwell. She's a best-selling author and co-founder of Mind Movies, the hugely successful and revolutionary online personal development company that has reached over 10 million people worldwide. She's also the founder of Mind Movies Method Coaching Academy, helping people who are looking for a change and facing the next chapter of their lives to tap into their passions and to help others. Her passion to help anyone struggling to manage their mental health has manifested itself also into an app called Feel Wise. This app is revolutionizing the way kids, adults, mental health practitioners, and families and organizations are caring for and managing their emotional needs. And so this conversation is a must listen if you feel like you're in this place of midlife and you're feeling this urge and desire for reinvention, changing and manifesting your new future, and even maybe changing some of your limiting beliefs and mindsets. We dig deep in all of that. So join me today as I talk to Natalie Ledwell on Menopause Mastery. Oh, Natalie, so I'm excited for us to have this conversation today. I actually had a conversation earlier with a neuroscientist, and we started to dabble into the changes in a woman's brain, particularly in menopause, and sort of the case for living long after fertility and why women do and how valuable that has been to kind of our ability to survive as long as we have. Yeah. But I think even more importantly, what we're going to talk about now is really exciting to me because I know that I'm living into this experience in my 50s and beyond as a period of reinvention. And that is your specialty, is helping people reinvent themselves and help wrap their mindset around it. So I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, I am too. And, I've just been visiting with friends in Australia who I haven't seen for quite some time. We're having these conversations and we're like, oh, menopause brain. Sometimes it'll come back, but at this time of our life, you're like, it's gone. It's never coming back. It's all right. I'm just going to be resigned to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the meme. The movie that had the guy and the girl and it was raining and they were hugging and then the woman goes, oh, yeah, I totally know what movie. Like, all right, so let's talk about this. So I would like to know reinvention. A lot of people talk about it, but it really is a skill to help people figure that out. How did you end up here? What got you all the way to reinvention and mindset?
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So I think I've had reinventions over the years. Like my first career was fitness, and I was at the top of my field and I'm speaking on stage to club owners from all over Australia. And then after 10 years, I'm like, meh. I've kind of done all this. What's next? And then I met my husband and then we had a nightclub, which was not the direction I thought I was going to go in. It was a very sideways, lateral kind of situation. And then we had like 10 years of what I call the beige years, where we had a lot of different businesses. We're going through the motions, nothing's exciting. And then, I had this moment where I'm thinking, shit, like I've got 4 businesses that I'm running at the same time with Glenn, with my husband, and we're not financially getting anywhere. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And then a friend of mine told me to order a DVD called The Secret. And I'm like, oh, right. Okay, I get this. This is the missing piece for me. Because I'd always been to the Tony Robbins and the Zig Ziglars and all those kind of seminars in my 20s, but I was like, I'm missing something. So that law of attraction piece was like the final, I'm like, okay, I can get behind this. This makes sense. And it was more about the visualization and being able to see it and be able to feel the emotions of already, having the things that you were, working towards. And then a friend of ours approached us with the little movie that he'd made. It was like a slideshow that had like PowerPoint slides that had affirmations written on them of the things that he wanted. photos that match those affirmations in between the PowerPoint slides, and then a song, music. And he's like, look, let's go into business together and, sell the instructions and have people around the world. Now, at the time, not only did we have 4 businesses, but Glenn could hardly turn on a computer, and I only knew how to use Word and bookkeeping. That's all I used a computer for. We knew nothing about the internet. This is 2007. I hadn't even heard of YouTube. I didn't even know what that was. And so now we're going through this other, reinvention. We kind of leaned into this. And then now I'm 39, so I'm 40, turning 40 at the time. So we're going into this whole new industry, this whole new world that we really know nothing about. But we're applying all of these, mindset, law of attraction, manifestation principles to our business skills. And now we ended up coming to the US in April 2008. We went to an internet marketing seminar so we could figure out the internet thing. We got accepted into this guy's mastermind group. We stayed in the US for 6 months. Even our friends people we introduced to were internet marketers. So we just became sponges and, learned what we had to do. And then we did this big launch of Mind Movies, which was our program, to the world in September of 2008. Which is when the economic crisis hit the planet and everyone's losing their jobs and their homes and everything. And we ended up doing a $700,000 week selling this little $97 program, which set us off on this whole, again, then that was 2008. So then 2013, I get to a point where my marriage ends. So Glenn and I separate. And it was really interesting because I was so unhappy. When he told me that he'd met someone else, I was relieved. I was like, oh, thank God, it's over. Like, great. And then I realized, hold on a minute, I've been blaming him for everything, for my weight, for holding me back, for not being able to shine, blah, 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 blah. And then realized once I lost my scapegoat that, I have to take responsibility for all of this stuff. So it sent me on a very deep journey of doing things like the Hoffman process and really getting honest with myself and taking responsibility for my contribution to the end of our marriage, but also for using that as an excuse not to step into a bigger future. That was huge. Because for the last year of our marriage, I kept getting this download or this message going, you're wasting time. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Mind Movies reached maybe 5 million people by that stage. We were changing lives. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But what it meant was, no, you're meant for bigger things, and you need to step into something bigger. And of course, since then, I've created a curriculum for schools around emotional intelligence, and then just recently created a coaching academy. I have men and women in the program, but predominantly women who are at this stage of their life where they're like, you know what? I've done what I've had to do, all the responsibilities. So I've been the mom, I've been the wife, I've been the career woman or whatever. Right now, all I want to do is do something that makes me happy and makes me feel like I'm making a difference. And there seems to be a huge wave of women right now who are in that space. So now I'm, again, reinventing, going into, the coaching academy. So I think for me, it's recognizing the dissonance that I feel at the time, realizing it's time for a change, and then going through that process of really thinking, well, what is that going to be? What could that possibly be? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such a key point is I know for me, because I have reinvented myself, I've had 3 distinctly different careers. I'm just like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm doing that over here. But I think it's that dissonance is so important because we're taught culturally, particularly as women, to shut down those sensations and those internal dialogues of dissonance because they can't be right? We can't trust our intuition to tell us that this is the next thing, but it's probably the thing.
Right.
The thing that we need to lean into. Do you find that to be true?
Absolutely. And I think that what happens is that, sometimes, and this is many discussions that I've had, even with girlfriends of mine who have a successful business where they are helping people, they're helping them with their marketing or whatever, but they're getting this calling to step into something else. And it's a little scary because it's like, wait a minute, but this is working and this is doing great. And am I going to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and then go into something completely different? Like I have one girlfriend of mine who ran a successful coaching academy and it was still going well. And she got this ability to start to channel the council. Now, most people will think that she is crazy, but she's like, I couldn't ignore it. And I think that we can, we get a little afraid because it's like, I don't want to completely burn the bridge there. But that feeling, that gnawing that starts to happen, it gets to a point where you can't ignore it anymore. You have to look in, you have to lean into it. And I'm also not saying don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't do that. But start to lean into something new, because the thing is, the more you lean into it, the more you gather evidence and proof that, yep, this is the direction I need to go. And even if it's not the direction, it's going to lead you to the direction. It's the stepping stone to get to that next thing. So, yeah, it's having the courage and having the support around you to be able to help you through that process. I'm really lucky. I have a lot of girlfriends who do what I do. So we can really, bounce off each other and have that support. But it's important that you're surrounded by women who are going to lift you up, not tell you that you're crazy for wanting to leave, a successful career and go into something where you may not be making as much money, but you definitely feel better in your soul and you know that you're going to be helping people and it's something that you're meant to be doing.
Oh my gosh, that is so, so important. I was talking to a client last week about, preparing for the holidays. And so we could take something so basic as, dietary things. And I'm like, we have our friends that you just know, like they're the girlfriend you go to and they're like, let's get a bottle of wine and we'll get cheese plate and then we're going to have chocolate. Like you have that friend that you're like, okay, if I'm going to try and eat well, this is not the girl I'm hanging out with.
Right.
And then I might have the friend that's going to be, kind of rigid about, you're supposed to do this. You need to do that. You should. And then we often are missing that one that's like, oh, just dive right in and go for it. Like that community is so, so important. And a lot of times that's not our friends that we've had for 20 years, and it's definitely not our family. This is very, 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 I would say, confrontational often in families because they're like, who is this new person? Do you find that with your coaches and the people you're working with? I would think that there's probably a lot of family dynamic happening all the time that is really uncomfortable.
Yeah, there is. And here's the other piece to the support. Because for you to make this transition into this new world, this new industry, this new business or whatever that is, there is a certain level of personal development that needs to happen. There's a certain level of up-leveling within yourself that needs to happen for you to be able to become the person that can step into this new venture. So yes, you'll still have friends that are, part of that old career or family and all that kind of thing, which is fine. But when you're going through this transition into something new, I think what's most important is that you have people that you can get really vulnerable with and very honest with, that and trust will be able to hold that space for you and that you can trust them with that information.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is so, so very important. So in your coaching academy, I'm sure obviously you give that sort of environment for somebody to expand on that. So for the women listening and they're like, I don't have anybody in my world. My bunco team does not dig this.
Yeah.
You don't have to try and get your square friends to fit into a round hole. The coaching academy definitely has you covered because, yeah, you do need that.
Yeah. Well, actually, we surveyed some of the coaches that have been, certified and are graduating because it's a year-long course. And when we asked her, what was some of the best things you loved about the program, new friendships was at the top of the list. Because when you're with other women who are going through exactly the same thing, like growing and expanding and learning something new and trying something out, and when you can have someone who's along the journey with you, but also understands the concepts and what you're going through, it makes a massive difference. And in the Mind Movies method and the coaching academy, the first stage, it's 3 stages. The first stage is the transformation. And, and I get everyone to experience their own transformation because, you need to go through that, your own up leveling so that you then have empathy and compassion for your clients because you're using the tools on yourself that you're going to be using with your clients. And it also means that you can, we get people with accountability partners and people are practicing on each other and they're not practicing with going to make up a situation. They're practicing with this is the shit I'm going through right now. And then using those tools, with other people that are going through the program. So, when you can get to that level of friendship and connection, but like I said, honesty and authenticity, it makes the world of difference. So I think it sets you up to navigate this next chapter and every other chapter of your life in a completely different way. You think about it in our 20s and our 30s, we're building, we're trying to find a partner, we're having a family, we're kind of doing all these things that are not really for us. They're for, the people that we're responsible to and the society of things that we think that we're responsible to. But when we get to this amazing, beautiful, gorgeous age, we are at this stage now where we've done the responsibilities. Now we can definitely focus on ourselves. And by doing that, it means that all the things that maybe we didn't work on earlier in our lives, those, limiting beliefs and those old wounds and those old programs, you have to look at them now. So making sure that you've got people around you that can hold space for that is super important. But yeah, now it's like, okay, we really got to face the music.
Well, yeah, because I was having that conversation, about like the neuroscience of menopause on the brain and how our brain starts to shift to this right hemisphere, which is more pattern recognition and strategy and slower thinking and creativeness, right? And which is a different thing than getting it done and staying organized and just knocking things out. Like our body's wired to go through this and shift you this way. So like love it, hate it, or whatever, you're going this direction because your body biologically is moving this direction, And so you might as well embrace and dive in and go all the way in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't love being in the rewiring part of it, but I'm loving the fact that I'm doing life different. Like I was in a 3.5-year relationship that ended in March. And I'm like, I don't even want to be in a relationship right now. Like before, it would always be who's next, who am I dating, getting on the apps. So I'm like, oh no, right now I want to be just with me and I just want to have my own space and be able to, like, if I want to dive into a really deep meditation process and I want to do that, if I want to be learning something new, I want to be able to do that without having to worry about my partner or whatever. But that's me right now. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, now is the time for us to really nurture ourselves and to be open to what could be on the other side of this. Like I said, I'm doing life completely different.
Yeah. What came to mind while you were talking about that was how confrontational it might feel to take off that old identity. Like I think the person that really struggles here, we desire as humans to be more consistent with our belief about ourselves than to actually be happy, right? So we want to reinforce this thought of what we think ourselves to be, right? And the costumes and all that crap that we put on. Like, how do you help somebody get over that hump? Because, some people are more wired for reinvention, I think, like just naturally because we're higher risk takers.
Yep.
But I think that's probably the most challenging part for people.
Well, even the risk takers and even the doers, because I'm a doer, I've had to completely release that as part of my identity. And I think part of that process is going, I am not my actions. I am not my things. I am not, the successes and everything. That's not who I am. So then the question becomes, well, who am I? I remember when my marriage ended, that first week after it, I mean, I was happy, it was over, I was done. But, it's like, oh my God, who am I? Like it'd been 20 years and we were a pretty high profile couple and, we did everything together. And I'm like, I don't even know who I am, without Glenn. It's always been Glenn and Nat for all these years. And then I think about by the Thursday, I'm walking and then I had this realization. I'm like, wait a minute. And I was listening to The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Great book. And he said something about how, this is just a moment in time and you get to choose how you respond to this moment. You get to choose how long this moment will affect you moving forward. I'm like, yeah. And wait a minute. I'm like, so my question shifted from who am I to, well, who do I want to be? I can be anyone. I can completely reinvent myself right now because I had this opportunity of this break to go, well, let me step into what this is. And I know sometimes, because Glenn and I are still business partners, he'll something like, I know you, blah, 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 blah. And I go, no, darling, that was me 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago, Nat. That's not this Nat. Like I said, do life different. I do see things differently. But I think more of the inquiry is if I'm not all these external things, then who am I? And then I also ask the question when I'm stepping into, these new projects and these new ventures, it's like, well, who do I need to be to step into that? I in a meditation recently, because I have a program for schools, a curriculum for schools around emotional intelligence, and it was finished at the beginning of the pandemic, but of course since then it's been a challenge to get into schools and the whole thing. So in my meditation, I'm like, well, what am I missing? Like, who do I need to be able to carry this project forward? And what came through was, your emotions. You're teaching about emotions and you're not showing any emotion. You're talking about the suicide rates and everything, and you're not showing any emotion. Like, people, they need to be able to see that you are in touch with your feelings as well. I'm like, right. So, having a practice where you can always be asking that question or be in that inquiry, and you don't have to be meditating. You could just be walking. I have walks where I listen to an audiobook and other walks where I'm like, nope, I've got a question today and I just want to ask that question and just stay quiet long enough so I can hear the answers and the things that are coming through and keep that channel open. So yeah, if you don't have a practice like that, I really encourage you to do so.
Yeah. So I want you to help people understand this question. And this is going to come probably a little bit out of left field, but I think it's important. Because what we're really talking about here is manifesting the person who you need to be to do the thing you want to do, but you need to be it now, right? Have you been feeling off? You know what? Your hormones might be out of whack. Take my quiz to discover your personalized hormone imbalance and get a free report with your results. Learn what's really going on with your hormones and start feeling like yourself again. Just visit the website quiz.hormoneshelp.com to take the hormone quiz now. Can you tell my audience the difference between manifesting and wishing? Because they are different.
So wishing is basically saying, I want this. I want something. I want something to be different. The thing is, when you say I want something, you're not saying I have it. You're not saying I am it. You're saying that I'm always going to be in a place of wanting. This is what wishing is. I wish this, I wish that, It's something that you go, I wish this would happen. And the second part of that is that, but I'm not willing to do anything to do it. I just want it to manifest. I just want it to appear. And when it comes to manifestation, yeah, of course, we want to set an intention. We want to visualize, but that's not where you stop. You also need to take that action. You also need to be in the right place at the right time. You need to create momentum. You need to be in an emotional and energetic state where you are a beacon for everything, that you want to attract and all the things that you don't even need to be attracted to you. But you only do that when you are maintaining a high frequency, which is, high frequency emotions. Things like, pride and accomplishment and courage and determination and joy and happiness and gratitude and all of those things. So when you're manifesting, for me, I have a few steps to do that. Number one, you've got to be in your happy place, which means you need to be in a high frequency. Because if you're only focusing on the problem or the issue or the challenge, and that's all you can see, at best, you might be able to think your way out of it, but you're not focusing on how amazing your life could be. The next thing is you need to set an intention. And your intention is like a line in the sand. It's like no matter what, I am this. I am doing this. I have this. I'm creating this. So that you're very clear about what that is, whether that's the business, the health, the relationship, whatever. Then you want to get really clear about what that is for you. And this is the fun part. And obviously with mind movies, this is the process I get people to go through. And that is write out affirmations. Like when I was visiting in Australia, I had a girlfriend of mine, they found a tumor on her spine. And she's like, right. She goes, I've been doing my affirmations, the tumor is getting better and better. I'm like, oh, no. First of all, let's take the word tumor out of that sentence because we don't want to be focusing on that. Words have energy and they conjure up pictures in our minds. So I'm like, no, you're focusing on a strong and healthy spine. That's what we want. It's just like, right. So you want to think about, and when you're writing your affirmations, what you want, write it as if you've got it now. Describe what life looks like now that you have it. And that's what you'll be using for your visualizations. Describe why you want it. And, when you're thinking about why, the people that you love, think about the people that you serve, and then think about yourself. You want to think about any kind of actions that you might need to do, changes to daily practices, things like that. You want to think about how you need to change the way you think. Because, everything that we have and see in our life right now came through our thoughts, emotions, and actions. So how do I need to think differently to step into this next chapter? And then the last one is, who do I need to be? And so when you can get clear and write down affirmations on all of those, you have really comprehensively described this amazing future as if it's happening now. Now, the reason we use affirmations is because they are the prompt or the tool that's going to help you to visualize yourself already living this life, already there. And when you visualize, don't see yourself as like a character in a movie. You want to experience it in your mind as if you're experiencing it now. So what do you see? What do you hear? What can you smell? Are you touching anything? Are you tasting anything? And most importantly, what are you feeling? Because when you feel the emotions that you will feel when you experience that moment, you become a homing beacon for everything you need, because your thoughts, emotions, and your actions will all be in alignment with that. So that's how you visualize effectively. And once you've created a scenario in your mind, you don't have to sit down with your eyes closed and, do that every time. You could be vacuuming the house and you can instantly go there in your mind, in your heart, into this, I call it daydreaming with intention, into this future that you want, because that puts you into the resonance. It puts you into the frequency that is the match to all those things that you need to make that happen. Then you obviously take action, got to move forward, you got to, move towards that goal. And then the last step is a little challenging. It's been the hardest one for me to master, and that is surrender, because you could do all those things and then you just got to let it go. You can't be attached to when it's going to happen, what it's going to look like, how it's going to happen. You can't be attached to any of those things. You just got to be clear about what it is that you want, start moving in that direction, and then be aware and acknowledge all the things that the universe or the God is throwing your way that's going to help you to move in that direction, help you to get to that end result. So follow that little process. That will definitely get you there in the end.
Yeah, I think that last one is the hardest for me, is the surrender. You should not be trying to control this outcome. That is like so antithesis of my wiring, It is so hard. What do you think, like, if somebody could just go, okay, if I had one sliver, like, from a surrender thing, what do you think would help that person the most? I know it's a bigger process, obviously, but if there was one thing somebody could take from this conversation about surrender.
Yeah, I think with the surrender, the hardest part is the when. Like, people go, I just want it to happen now. Like, or if it's taking a long time, you start to lose faith, you start to get, frustrated. These are all low frequency emotions. We do not want to go there. So what I recommend is that you, every day when you're doing your gratitude journal, and if you're not doing one, you should be doing one, 3 to 5 things every day, different things every day that you're grateful for, but also take a moment to think about and acknowledge all the things that popped up that day that weren't particularly your doing, but was the universe or God giving you something on your journey. Because sometimes we go, it's taking so long, but we don't realize that all these little things are falling into place along the way. And when we can acknowledge those and go, right, and I write them in my journal as well, because remember, what we focus on expands. So the more I focus on that, the more I'm looking for it, the more I see it, the more it starts to show up. Then you don't get frustrated because well, I know I'm on the journey and I know it's going to happen. Obviously not happening in the time frame I particularly want, but I do know that it will happen. And that to me has been the biggest strategy that I've been able to use in the surrender part, And like also, if anything good shows up, I'm like, oh, this is unexpected. I'm like, okay, we'll see where this goes. I try and live like that as well. Like I had one morning, I get up, I take Bella out for her wee and come back, and then I get ready for the gym. I'm about to walk out, and so I put the lead on, I take her out. We get like 5 minutes down the road and she's like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, seriously? Turn around, we come back. But as I come back, I come in a different gate and there's a woman standing there with a little dog. So I start chatting to her. And then her girlfriend comes out, which is a girlfriend of mine as well, Catherine. So she's like, well, we're just going to the coffee shop. Why don't you walk with us? And I'm like, okay. And of course, now that we've got people, Bella's happy to walk now. So I ended up talking to this woman who I've met for the first time, and she's doing a whole lot of work. She's doing a whole paper on, emotional intelligence and so forth. Then we start working together, because at any time in that moment, like I wanted to go to the gym. That was the plan. But, I was just following what was presenting. Bella wanted to walk. I could have said no. She wanted to turn back. I could have said no. I met with these women. They wanted to walk further. I could have said no. But I just went with the flow. I was, okay, well, let's do this or let's do this. I'm like, I can go to the gym in the afternoon. So when you can be a little bit more relaxed to go with the flow, and when things present, if you find that you're going, no, because my plan is this, sometimes I question that and go, well, let's see where this might lead, And I think that when you can be more aware of being in the flow like that, some really amazing serendipitous things can show up.
Oh, definitely. And I have to allow myself to slow down in those moments so I can be like, oh, no, I'm supposed to go I'm supposed to zig instead of zag right here. And I really need to do that.
Yeah.
So I want to circle back just a little bit on, we've talked about manifesting, reinvention, and then a little bit about mindset, and limiting beliefs, because, I think some of us are aware, but I think the majority of what holds us back are the things we're not aware that we think.
Right.
Absolutely. The conscious world.
Well, I mean, we all have programs and limiting beliefs in the past. And, even if you've done some work and realized some of the bigger limiting beliefs you might have around money or success or career or love or whatever, yeah, that's great. And you're not done yet, unfortunately. And for those of you who are not familiar with the term limiting belief, it really comes from how our brains are wired and how brains work. When we're between the ages of, say, 2 and 6, we are predominantly in theta brainwave activity. Now, when we're in theta, that's the learning state. We are like little sponges and we're absorbing everything that's going on around us. And we're giving meaning to all the stuff that's going on around us. Okay. And then by the time we get to about 7, 8, brainwave state starts to change. So now all these things that we have been told or that we observed that we gave meaning to now become our core beliefs. And we move through life governed and influenced by these subconscious beliefs that we are probably not even aware are there. Like, for example, if you were told that you were stupid when you're a kid and, in high school you fail an exam, your subconscious mind is going to go, see, told you, you're not very smart or you're stupid. That one little event is giving you the meaning that you're stupid. But it's like the subconscious mind keeps trying to gather more evidence to prove that, this is true. So then we get older and we, consciously, we're like, I want to be successful. I want a career. I want to change. And then you have these thoughts or these feelings or these behaviors that come up that sabotage you from moving into that new space. For example, like, I want to be wealthy. It's like, well, no one else in my family is wealthy. So why do I think that I can do that? Or, I don't know how to do that. Or, like, for example, with the children's program, I had to overcome a whole lot of inner dialogue because I'm like, wait, I'm from a country town in Australia. I'm one of 8 kids. I left school when I was 15. I don't even have kids. Like, what do I think I'm doing? Who do I think I am? This dialogue is going through in my mind and it's stopping me from stepping into, this big project that's going to change a lot of people's lives. So the first thing you want to do is that most of the time we're unaware of these thoughts unless we challenge them. So if you are stepping into something new and you set yourself a goal and you're moving forward and you find that all these, thoughts are coming up or behaviors like procrastination, those kind of things, take a note of it. What I do is just write it all down out of my head, write it down. Because sometimes once you start to write, you start to look at the page and go, damn, do I really think all of this? Because, these things are split second, and because we've been thinking them sometimes for like 50 years, they just seem like second nature. And sometimes they're disguised as common sense. But if it's not a thought that's propelling you forward, then it is connected to a limiting belief. And you don't necessarily need to know what that core belief is. What a simple thing that you can do is that you look at that list and go, right, I want to release these thoughts. Now, what you have to do is figure out what you're going to replace those thoughts with, because those thoughts that you've been thinking for 50 years are traveling along very strong neural pathways in our brain. So anytime something comes up in relation to, money or career or success, these thoughts are going to go from the 40 million bits of data and thoughts that are going on in our subconscious mind per second. It's going to be one of the 40 bits of data that's put through to the conscious mind. And we need to create new neural pathways with new thoughts. Now, it's going to take a little while for us to train our brain to do this, but we want to be able to replace those old neural pathways will still exist, but they atrophy. And then we've got these new ones and they get stronger and stronger as we start to go through this process. So thoughts we don't want, write down the thoughts you do want to think instead and write them as an affirmation or whatever. And then set the intention. I'm going to be releasing these thoughts. Now, the next time that thought comes up, because it will, it's not like you go instantly, I'm not going to think that anymore and it just goes away. When you catch yourself, what you want to do is stop for a moment. You go, cancel. Only love exists here. Now, the reason you do that, number one, it's a pattern interrupt. Okay, so it's interrupting that neural pathway. It's interrupting that pattern. Number two, when you say only love exists here, it means that you're not going to beat yourself up and go, damn it, I didn't want to think that thought anymore. You don't go down that road because we don't want to go there. Only love exists here. And then you remember the thought that you're going to replace it with, and then you move forward with that new thought. And it's like a simple little exercise you can do. And after a while, you don't have to do that anymore because, you've trained your brain now to default to that other neural pathway.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for the very, very detailed way to do that. Because we know, I won't even say I think, it's just, this is often what holds us all back is we're operating on a 4-year-old's decision-making with limited capacity. Yeah. I mean, shoot, your prefrontal cortex isn't even developed until you're like 21 to 25, right? So your ability to make decisions actually isn't even online.
Well, good decisions anyway.
Yeah, at least not good decisions. They're primal decisions to keep us safe, but they're not accurate. Definitely not accurate as an adult, for sure. So if you were to sit and say, okay, to my listeners, right, we've talked a lot about, reinvention and manifesting and difference between that and wishing and how to sit in dissonance and sort of understand that. If you were to say, if you're in this place, ladies, and you really are in that mode where you feel like it's time to make the next move, what would you say is the best next step for everybody listening? Because I think a lot of women are just sitting in this discomfort and they're fearful.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay. First of all, I would, like I said before, if you don't have a gratitude practice, I really encourage you to start one, because when you're in the dissonance, this is lower frequency. We want to try and get into this, higher frequency. Gratitude is the fastest way to get there. And don't just write in your gratitude journal. I like to pepper my day with little things that are going to make me feel good. It could be little activities. It could be, just setting an alarm on your phone so you stop, drop, and then go into gratitude in the moment. And so you're really training yourself to look for the best and to be in that high frequency. And then the next thing is just to be in the internal inquiry of what that could be. So you want to look at, what is it that you love to do? What are the things that you really like doing? What is your own personal journey? What are the challenges that you've overcome that you could possibly help other people overcome because you're on the other side of it? What are you good at? And then even talk to other people and go, look, if you were to say, one or two things that you think are good qualities of mine, what do you think they are? Because all these little breadcrumbs are going to lead you to that next step could possibly be for you. So be in your happy place and then you start the inquiry, and then, even when something shows up and it feels a little scary, like I said, don't completely burn the bridge. Just kind of lean in and go, well, what could this look like? And don't, jumping boots and all and so forth. Just lean in and figure out what that could possibly be and where that could lead for you. And make sure you've got some supportive girlfriends around you.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you've got some mind movies that you've got for my listeners. And then we didn't really get a chance to talk about this. Could you tell me a little bit about your FeelWise app and how that works? And just so I can make sure that we talk about that as well, because that's extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, my gift is 6 pre-made mind movies. So, sometimes I can describe what a mind movie is and you don't quite get it. So here you'll get 6 mind movies. They're already made for you. They're fairly generic, but they're on topics like building confidence and creating wealth and great relationships and so forth. So the reason that these are so awesome is that you can download them to your phone, to your computer. You can start watching them. They will start to get you into the frequency of, wealth and love and all those kind of things. But they also help you to populate in your mind what wealth means to you or what love means to you, because it's different for all of us. And it helps you to get a much clearer vision of what that can be for you, even though these are generic, So, but they're awesome. The FeelWise app, we released this earlier this year. I know I'm probably speaking to the converted here, but the world is struggling right now. And I think that especially since the pandemic, what we've seen is, parents in stress, kids not being able to handle their stress and anxiety levels are rising. Suicide rates are out of control. And a lot of it is because no one seems to have the basic tools that they need to be able to shift their emotion or at least sit in their emotion for 90 seconds. 2 minutes max, where it can actually dissipate. A lot of people have that information. So with the FeelWise app, we have a lot of videos on, breath work and meditation and visualization and mind movies and a whole bunch of little things that you can do that take a couple of minutes that can really help you to shift your energy and shift your emotions. But we use AI technology to actually measure your emotions. So you speak into your app for 15 seconds, and then we can measure the emotional energy you're holding in that moment through the frequency of your voice. And we give you a little energy report. And so it kind of gives you an idea of where you are now. And it also gives you an invitation that you go, ooh, sadness seems to be a little high today. So you can click on sadness and it'll give you what sadness is, how it shows up, why you could possibly be feeling it, and then give you some ideas and things you can do to shift it. And we also have an AI guide in there. His name is Oscar. So you can actually engage in a conversation with him, because what we have seen, which is very sad, is a sharp increase of the suicide rates for boys and men. And they're kind of in a place where they're told, boys don't cry, you got to be tough. So not only don't feel safe sharing their emotions with anyone, a lot of the time they don't even know how to label or describe their emotions. We've been doing some work with some military schools and talking to the school counselor. She's like, yeah, sometimes the boys don't even know how to describe what it is that they're feeling. So, these boys can have a full conversation with Oscar about anything. And I believe I've sat down with Oscar and Oscar, he goes, how are you feeling today? And I'm like, frustrated. I'm trying to do a podcast and I can't figure out what subject I'm going to talk about and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, why don't you go and meditate? And I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm like, I know I should do that, but I'm like, because Oscar told me. And then, of course, an idea come in within 3 minutes. So with that app, it's called FeelWise, and it's both Apple and Android. You can find it in the App Store there. But it's a great way, and you can actually join as a family. You can have like 6 people in the one account, or you can have 2 people in the account. So you got someone that you can work through with it. And it helps you to also open up conversations about your emotions and know how to support your family members as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's great. That's great. Now, where can my listeners reach you?
Yeah, so mindmovies.com is our main website, which you'll find a lot of goodies and things there. And then for the app, you just go to feelwiseapp.com and you'll find a lot more information about that, about the AI and all the other features that are there. So they're probably the 2 best places you could reach out.
Awesome. Natalie, this has been such an awesome conversation. I think perfect time of year to have this conversation because everybody's going into January thinking about, wanting to have change, and change is only partial when we talk about actually reinvention, which is really probably what they're wanting. You gave them so much good golden information on this interview. It was great.
Thanks, Betty. And thank you for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening to Menopause Mastery. If this was an awesome episode for you, please share it with a friend, because together we rise, and we will be back with you next week.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Menopause Mastery podcast. You are why I'm here, and I am so very grateful. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any wisdom on creating the most exceptional life on our terms. If this episode has helped you in any way, please share it with a friend to spread the love, and together we rise. You can follow me on social media at Betty Murray, PhD, and you can reach me online at bettymurray.com.